Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. If you were here last night, you heard Matt tell this story, but the way I found out I was doing this workshop is John and Angie Van Horn were over for supper, and something came up about the conference. They asked something about workshops, and Matt's like, oh, well, I have the workshop schedule pretty well worked up. I'll go get it for you. And he went to his office, came back, and he put this piece of paper on the table, and I'm looking it over. I'm like, I'm signed up for a workshop? And he's like, well, you know how your dad always says it's easier to get forgiveness than permission? That's kind of what I figured with this. But so it took me a little while to warm up to the idea. It's a little intimidating because we're still raising our kids. Like, I feel like I can go listen to Callisons and Reynolds, and they're like tried and proven. And this is all still in the works for us. So I think that's what makes me a little nervous is we're still learning. Like, we don't have this totally figured out. But what Matt knows is that I do have a passion for discipleship of girls. And so I'm willing to talk about it, and he knows I love him, and he will do that. I'll try to do what he wants me to do. So those are the two reasons I'm here. I love my husband, and I love this topic, but I don't feel super qualified to speak on it. But I'm going to be talking mostly about girls because I do really have a passion for discipleship of girls, but a lot of the things I'm going to be talking about are going to apply to boys too. We're really new to the teenage boy world. Blake's been a teenager since July. So we're very new to that. We plan to do things a lot the same way, and the same principles will apply, but mostly what I'm going to be talking about is girls, but obviously there's some overlap. Okay, so we're going to be talking about preparing young girls to love Jesus most as teens. For those of you who don't have teenagers yet, which some of you obviously have raised teenagers, but for those of you who don't have teenagers yet, what emotions does it stir up in you when you think about your daughter and her teenage years? Like, just be honest. We're not going to judge if it's
fearful.
Okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like I'm just afraid most of the time.
Okay, that's fair. Thanks for being honest. Anybody else have something different?
The unknown.
Yeah? Okay.
As a grandparent now,
Mm-hmm.
seeing if my daughter's letting her date the right guys,
Mm-hmm.
I mean.
Yeah. I think it's a topic that can just feel really intimidating. Like, we've seen teenage rebellion, we've seen a lot of things, and we think, okay, how's this going to go for my daughter? You know, she's sweet, she's innocent, she's little and cuddly, or, you know, still sweet, but how's this going to go for us? So I think it can invoke a lot of just like intimidated and like fear. Teens do get a bad rap, and I think people think of raising teens as just really hard, and it is hard. I'm not gonna say that it's not. But if you're a parent, you're already used to hard. Babies are hard. Toddlers are hard. There's not a phase in parenting that is not hard. So teenage years have their own hard. There's a lot to navigate. It's kind of complicated. There's 1 million conversations that need to be had. But don't think of it, oh, that's going to be so hard and I don't know how to do that, because you're navigating parenthood already. You're already doing hard. I will say from my experience so far that these have been some of my favorite years. There's so much. I'm really emotional today, so I'm just going to give you that heads up and apologize ahead of time. I have found these to be some of the most rewarding and joyful years in parenting, which has surprised me because I really love babies. But my goal today is just to cast a vision of what these years could look like, and maybe to throw out some ideas of things to consider. How we did it and what we've done so far may not be the perfect fit for you guys, but I just want to throw out some ideas. One of the main things I want to communicate is now, if you don't have a teenage daughter yet, now's the time to be thinking about some of these things. If you wait till they're already teens to start thinking through these teen issues, you're way behind. Now's the time to start thinking through your philosophy of how you want some things to go, how you want to parent, what maybe your family culture is going to be around some of these issues, and then start to make a plan. Your chances of getting buy-in from your girls are a lot better if you start planning these ideas early when they're young, a little bit more impressionable. And I think that will go a long ways to helping you when they're actually teenagers. I was telling Matt the other day when I was working on this, I was like, I really do believe that the most important teenage years are like 8 to 12, because that's when you're setting the foundation. Okay, so let's cast a vision. For a minute, let's just like mentally set aside the baggage of what we think of teenagers sometimes in our culture and think about the woman you want to raise. Like, what character qualities do you want her to have? What are some skills that you hope she can develop before she's an adult? Who do you think that God wants her to be? And I feel like when we're considering that, if we answer like, this is who we want our daughter to be, and you ask, who does God want her to be? If those two don't very, very closely align, then your priorities for your daughter are misaligned. If you were here last night, Pastor Dave was talking about, like it's so easy for us to get caught up in, this is who I want my kids to be. And a lot of times we think we want them to make money, we want them to have these certain jobs, we want them to follow in our footsteps in this certain way. Those aren't the important things. The thing is that the most important is that they learn to love Jesus most. That's the goal. That's God's goal for them, so that should be our goal for them as well. And once we know what we're aiming for, we can kind of start to work backwards, right? We can say, this is where we want to go. Let's work backwards and think through some of the steps that it would be wise to take now to help set their feet on that path to take them in the right direction. Does that make sense? So if the thought of teenagers scares you, I encourage you to put off the world's idea of teenagers are lazy, they have bad attitudes, they're disrespectful. They can be, but teenagers can be godly. And if they're believers, we should expect them to be. We should not give them a pass because they're teenagers, and teenagers will be teenagers, kids will be kids. If they claim to follow Jesus, we should expect them to act like believers. They can do hard things. They can lead their friends to Jesus. They can set an example. 1 Timothy 4:12 says, "Let no one despise your youth, but be an example in word, in conversation, in charity, in spirit, in faith, and in purity." That's what God requires of us. That's what God requires of young people. And so we shouldn't let the bar be too low to where we're not expecting those things of our kids as well. Now, having that said, they will not be perfect. They will mess up. They are, they're young. They have limited life experience. They have a sin nature. They have imperfect parents. They are, their brains are still developing. Like, they are not going to be perfect. They're gonna blow it sometimes. We should expect that, but we can also expect that they will try to honor God with their life if they claim to be believers. This is a book that if you're struggling to like get past the mental idea of like what teenagers in our culture are and what they can be, this would be a really good read for you as parents, for your daughter. It's called Kisses for Katie, and it's a biography of autobiography of a girl. She graduated from high school, moved to Uganda by herself to do mission work, and lived over there for years. She adopted several kids some girls who were orphans, several. And it's just a good example of what God can do with a teenage girl who was sold out to him and surrendered. It was really helpful when I read it. I think Brittany was like 12 when I read it, and I was like, okay, teenage girls can live like this. This is the kind of thing we're shooting for. Your life doesn't have to look like this. You don't have to move to Uganda, but that level of surrender is what we are shooting for. Before I get too much into things, I do want to just make a note that it's God is the one who works in hearts, right? We, as parents, we have to keep in mind, this is not formulaic. Like, I do not want to present this as, do these things and your daughters will love Jesus. Like, we don't have that level of control. We could do all the right things, whatever all the right things are, and our kids can totally walk away from the Lord, and they can walk away from us and never speak to us again. We could do everything wrong, and by the grace of God and in his goodness and kindness, they could love Jesus with all their heart and follow hard after him. Like, we can't control our kids, and we can't control the outcome. What we can do is we can plant the seeds, we can tend to the soil, we can water, and we can pray hard that God will just pour his grace on our parenting and on our kids. But it's only God that can bring the fruit. So I just want to put that out there before we get into it, that this is not a formula. I don't think such a thing exists. But our kids are the Lord's, and I think we can really rest in that. In some ways, the fact that only God can bring fruit is something that I find really comforting, and sometimes I find it really terrifying, because I can strive all day long as hard as I can. At the end of the day, it's out of my hands. So we just have to trust that God cares about our kids more than we do, and that he is good and he can be trusted. That's our only hope. I want to show this short clip. Now, I want to also preface it with, I don't know who this guy is other than this video. So if you know who he is and he's a heretic, I'm really sorry. All I know of him is this one clip, and I really, really like it. And it summarizes a lot of what I want to talk about today. So beyond this clip, I plead the fifth about anything else this guy teaches.
If you don't have a vision and a plan, your parenting will become no parenting, not yes parenting. Because when you don't have a plan, your family begins to perish without a vision, and now they start drifting. And, oh, no, don't touch that, don't eat that, don't talk to them, don't go there, as opposed to, here's where we're going, let's keep saying yes to that. The Heavenly Father, when he put his first kids in the garden, he put one no at the center and surrounded it with 10,000 yeses. Right. We need to be families that are more of the yes families and no families, and that comes from having a plan. If you don't have a vision and a plan, your parenting will be...
Okay, then it just starts repeating itself again. Something about this just resonates so much with me. I love the idea of telling my kids, this is the direction we're going. On this path, there are 1,000 yeses. There are some things to the side that are not for you, but here I will tell you yes over and over and over again. Contrary to what our kids might believe, we don't like telling them no, right? Like, that's not just something we do for fun, just all day long. No, 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 no. I love telling my kids yes. I love, as parents, we love giving good gifts to our kids. So I love the idea of casting a vision with my husband for our family of, this is how we're going to head. And we want you to join us on this path. And if you choose this path, we will help you and encourage you and tell you yes all day long to the good things on this path. That really resonates with me. So our overarching goal of each of the points that we're going to talk about is that our goal is for our kids to love Jesus most, even in their teenage years, especially in their teenage years. So that's kind of where we're going, and I forgot to switch slide. All right, so we're going to talk about dating. In my mind, we're going to spend way more time on this than anything else. It's not necessarily the most important, but I feel like it's the one that needs to be talked about the most. So we're going to spend a bit of time here. And I'm going to show my hand right up front. Those of you who know me well know this about me. I am not a fan of teenage romance. So it's out there, no secrets. And it actually has very little to do, I feel like when I was a teenager, a lot of the teaching around dating had to do with purity. My strong feelings on this actually have very little to do with all the physical things that we hope our girls won't get caught up in as teenagers. And it has a lot more to do with the fact that I just think it's a huge distraction of what's most important during these years that they're shaping their character and setting a foundation for the rest of their life. I just think it's a huge distraction that doesn't need to be there. I think there's a lot better ways you can spend your junior high and high school years than chasing boys. There's plenty of time for boys later. I just personally don't think this is the time. So what I'm not going to suggest is that you slap this like big no dating rule down for your kids, because I don't think that's going to go very well. I'm not naive enough to think that that's just going to be like, okay, mom and dad say no dating. But I am suggesting that we just take a step back and look at the dating scene a little bit more objectively and ask if there's maybe a better way than how their culture is doing it. And I would love for you guys to catch this vision and share it with your daughters. But it's not one sit-down conversation. This is 100 conversations, maybe 1,000 conversations over many years. That's how discipleship happens, right? It's not this one-off. We have this really big, important conversation. It's lots of conversations in the car, lots in the car. We've had a lot in the car. But just as you're going about life, this philosophy is passed on to girls through lots of conversations. And it's a really beautiful thing when you see a girl catch this vision And instead of responding to a no dating rule, if a girl can catch this vision and choose, I'm going to put my feet on this path. This is the direction I want to go. So there's a few reasons why I think we should consider playing the dating scene. The first one is just the maturity and readiness factor. Girls start thinking about boys and dating and getting married when they're super tiny, right? Like they're watching princess movies and thinking about Prince Charming. I mean, they just start thinking about it so young. The longing to be loved and to love is deep in our DNA, and that's put there by God. That's not a bad thing. The longing to get married and have a family, that's put there by God. That's a good thing. These are good things. But as this verse says, young women of Jerusalem, I charge you, do not stir up or awaken love until the appropriate time. Or as the old saying goes, the right thing, but at the wrong time is the wrong thing, right? So let me ask you the question, what's the purpose of dating, ultimately? Okay, getting to know each other?
Find a spouse.
To find a spouse?
Marry.
Right. So if the purpose of dating is to find a spouse, then perhaps it's not an appropriate activity for junior high kids, right? If you think about it, they're probably a good 8 to 10 years away from being in a place where they can reasonably consider marriage. And if anybody who lives with a junior high kid could attest to, their brains are not fully developed. I'm not kidding you. This morning, while we were getting ready, my junior high boy was telling me the names of his toes. There's Josh, potato salad. I mean, that's where junior high boys' brains are. And when we see junior high kids in relationships, we can roll our eyes at how immature they are. But honestly, developmentally, they're just not there, right? So we can't expect kids who really aren't ready to date, we can't expect when they do date, it's going to be immature and it's going to be silly and we're going to be rolling our eyes at it. And to be honest, I don't know a lot of high school boys who are actually mature enough to handle it. Healthy relationships take a lot of emotional maturity. And if you're just developmentally not there yet, you just don't have it. We shouldn't be shocked when they don't handle it well. I think it's good to teach our kids love is a wonderful thing. It's just not for you yet. So we're going to talk a minute about teaching our girls to look for the right qualities in boys. And chances are there just aren't an overabundance of boys their age that have those qualities yet. I'm not trying to pick on boys. I have a couple boys that would really blend into this picture. In fact, when I pulled it up the other day, one of them's like, is that me? So I love my boys. I love them deeply. And we pray that they will make wonderful, godly husbands someday. But they're not there yet. And nobody should be dating that. And these boys, my boys, they're going to be just fine, but they need to grow and mature. And we need to give them time to do that without pretending that they're ready to be in some romantic relationship. So my girls and I heard a illustration a few years ago that I love, and I will forever talk about. We use it all the time in our house now. My girls use it for code. They'll be like, these are totally frozen pizzas. But it goes like this. Boys are like frozen pizza. When you first pull a frozen pizza out of the freezer, it's like frozen solid. Nobody's going to look at that and be like, I want to eat that, right? It has potential. It's not a bad pizza. It's going to be a good pizza. It's just not ready. Junior high boys are frozen solid. They'll get there, but you got to give them some time, right? Now, if you put that pizza in the oven and you let it cook for about half the recommended time, and then you pull it out, is it better than this?
Yeah.
Yeah, in theory. Do you want to eat it?
No.
No, it's half-baked. So we at our house talk about high school boys are like half-baked. It's better than being frozen solid. It's well on its way. It's just not ready yet. You got to let it cook a little longer. So boys are great. We've just got to give them time to cook. In junior high and even high school, they don't yet have the qualities that we need to be teaching our daughters to look for in a husband, right? And truth be told, we're picking on boys, but the girls don't have them yet either. The girls mature a little faster, and we're talking about girls, but they need some time to cook too, truth be told. So I told this illustration to a group of girls at camp last year, and one of the girls was like, "Are you saying that by college they're really hot and yummy?" I'm like, well, I don't know how to answer that. But yes, to go with the illustration, by the time they're in college, they are starting to like mature. Like they're starting to bubble up a little, right? Like you're starting to see qualities that, okay, maybe they could realistically consider entering into a God-honoring, mature relationship. But really, in most cases, my opinion is until about that age, they're just not there. That's okay. So we've always encouraged our girls to not date until they're done with high school. Thankfully, they've bought into that. They've really not just honored what we wanted, but that's become a conviction of theirs. And so we haven't kept them from it, but they have chosen not to date in high school. But like Britt's graduated, she can date. We're totally fine with that. I found it really interesting when we took her to Cedarville, dropped her off at college. We heard the president speak. It's a Christian college. We heard the president speak a couple times, and he actually encouraged the new students to not even consider dating till they got through their freshman year. And I said to Matt, I was like, somebody's more radical than we are when it comes to dating philosophy. But what he said to them was, I thought, really good. He said, spend the first year focusing on school, figuring out who you are in Christ, and running as hard as you can towards Jesus. After that, look around, see who's keeping pace, and maybe then you should have a conversation about if you should run to Jesus together. I love that image. I like that so much more. All right, we're going to run hard towards Jesus and see who God brings along. Then we're going to chase boys and see what we can scrounge up. Do you see the difference? Yeah. I just think it's a world of difference. Okay, so we have the maturity factor, and then we have the distraction factor. Boys can take up such a big place in the hearts and minds of young girls. If you've been around junior high, high school girls, you know that they get Twitter-pated and they're swooning over a guy, but then the next week they're swooning over a different guy, and they spend so much time thinking about who they like and who likes them back and who likes who and who doesn't like who back and who's breaking up with who and who's heartbroken and who likes who now, and all that. It's just like makes your mind spin. It takes up so much of their thoughts, or it can. It can just be a real obsession. I would even say that it can border on idolatry to young girls. But imagine with me what it could look like if your daughter decides, I'm gonna put all of that aside. I'm gonna wait for something later and better. And right now I'm gonna focus on something better. Imagine the brain space that it would clear up in her brain if she just decides to put all this on hold while she's in school. And then, furthermore, imagine with me if she decides, with that extra time and emotional energy, I'm just gonna run hard after Jesus. I'm just gonna pursue him. I'm gonna work on becoming the woman that God wants me to be, so that someday I can step in, when I do meet somebody, I can step into that role of being a wife as a godly wife and just work on my own character development and learning to be who God wants me to be. Can you catch the vision for the difference that it could make in them by the time, let's say they're 18, they graduate from high school, if they focus on this rather than following boys? It just frees up so much time, space, and energy. And I'm not saying that every young girl is boy crazy or that every teenage relationship is terrible. I'm not saying that. I don't want to oversimplify it. But I do think in most cases it's just a big distraction of something that could be better. And I think I like to think in the good, better, best scale that helps me make decisions a lot of times. You can have 3 good choices in front of you, but when you stack them up, okay, what's good, what's better, and what's best, on the good, better, best scale, I think this is really wise. I think this possibly falls into the best scenario. At least I'm convicted of that for my family. Again, there's going to be lots of time for boys later, so the boys will come. Okay, another factor, we have the maturity factor, we have the distraction factor, and then we have the drama factor. This point's really short, but as a mom, it's really dear to my heart. Imagine the drama and the heartache your daughter could avoid by just waiting on God's timing in this area of her life. Proverbs 4:23 says, above all else, guard your heart. Their hearts are precious. And most girls want to get married. Statistically, most will. But let's help them catch the vision of waiting for the right guy is worth it. I have never heard anybody said, God brought me this wonderful husband, but you know what was really great? Getting my heart broken 14 times before I met him, right? Like, I feel like deciding to not date in school, or, you know, it doesn't have to be like this hard and fast rule, like 6 months before you start dating, whatever, you know, but like, or before you graduate, whatever. But like, if you decide to stay above the drama, you just kind of like get a ride above all these like teenage drama, heartbreaks and relationships. And I've seen that with my girls. Like they made the decision not to date in high school, and then like they'll talk about their friends and the relationships they're in, and they're like, I wish they would just understand they don't have to do this. They don't have to get like caught up in all of this. They can just like stay above it. It saves a lot of heartache and drama, but then like think of when they're done with their teenage years, they're not taking baggage from all of that from their teenage years. Does that make sense? Yes. And then there is the low standard factor. Have you ever seen a teenage couple and you're just thinking, what are you thinking? Like, what is she thinking? What is he thinking? I don't know how many times I have seen a kid, we work with teenagers. We have a teen Bible study in our home, we have for years. And I don't know how many times I have seen like what seems like an otherwise like really smart, level-headed kid that seems to have their priorities straight. And then they start dating somebody that you're like, how do you not see that that person is not good for you? This relationship is dragging you down. And that's just like, what are you thinking? I've seen that so many times. I think sometimes they get so in love with the idea of love that they're willing to just drop their standards to feel love and to give love. Sometimes I see them look over pretty big character issues to get this experience of love. Young girls typically like to talk about love. At our house, we call it love stuff. Brittany's like, Bria asked last night, she's like, are you gonna call it love stuff? Yeah, I am. That's what we call it at our house. It's just like this whole, like it encompasses this whole like idea of love and falling in love and all that stuff. We call it at our house love stuff. So girls love to talk about love stuff. And what I have tried to do with my girls is when stuff comes up, which they don't talk about cute boys very often, but when that kind of thing comes up, rather than like talking about cute boys, I've tried to steer the conversation towards like, what are we looking for in character qualities? Like, what kind of husband would you like to end up with someday? What kind of husband do you think God wants you to end up with? And then to just be really transparent and vocal with them about this is the kind of husband we are praying that God will bring into your life. And just to teach them to look for that rather than a cute boy or somebody who's popular or somebody who just likes them. A lot of times I see girls liking a guy just because he likes them, and that's it. So it's like this is what they have in their mind. They want the fun, they want the romance, they want their wedding. But it's really important for us to teach our girls to look for like true qualities, like godly character qualities in a man, because this is what they think they want. And as married women who have lived a bit longer, we know this is what they need. This is a marriage. Like the wedding is beautiful. I love weddings. They make me cry every single time. But this is what marriage looks like more. These are some of the scenarios that our daughters will actually face, and it's not all sunshine and roses, right? They're likely to have a miscarriage at some point or have health issues, financial struggles. It's hard. Raising kids together is hard. And we want them to learn to look for a man who's up for the task, up for this kind of situation. We need to be teaching them discernment and to value what really matters. This is the part that I'm like, can I get through this without getting teary? So full disclosure, I might not. But just an example of this and the way that I've tried to point my girls to this. I get migraines. If you know me, you probably know that. A few years ago, I had a particularly bad migraine. It was the worst I've ever had. It's the only time I went to the ER for it. I was so sick. And Matt takes such good care of me when I struggle with these. So this particular morning, I was trying to get out of bed so that he could take me to the ER. I was puking my guts out. I was sitting on the edge of my bed just trying to get steady so we could go. I'm holding an ice pack on my head. I'm sobbing because my best friend's mom had died and I was missing the funeral. I just was too sick to go. And Matt was holding a puke pan for me. So, I mean, this is a very unglamorous scene, right? And I look over, and in my doorway, the girls are standing there just watching us. And I just said to them, marry somebody like your dad. And Brittany right away said, that's exactly what I was just thinking. I will, Mom. And I mean, these are the scenarios this is real life, right? A good-looking guy's not gonna cut it. I mean, if he's good-looking, great. This is what we need to teach them to look for. And there's a couple dads in here. You play a big role in this. Your girls are watching how you treat your wife. And they're probably gonna marry somebody a lot like you. So if you're not okay with the idea of your daughter's future husband treating her the way that you're treating your wife, you probably need to make some changes because she's very likely to marry somebody a lot like you. So just, yeah, that has a big responsibility. But all of this kind of connects. If we are setting the bar here for our girls, this probably isn't going to catch their attention right now, right? It kind of just takes care of it. That's not going to appeal that much if we have the bar high enough. So one last thing I want to say on dating, and it doesn't really fit under one of the other points, but I think it's such a nugget that we can give to young girls. I love to talk to them about this. All right, what is Proverbs 31 about? It's a really well-known chapter. A virtuous woman or a virtuous wife, right? Does anybody off the top of your head know what verse 12 says? Probably not. I mean, it's actually a verse you don't hear about that much in this topic. It says, she does him good and not evil all the days of her life. And when I was a probably early teenager at camp, I was challenged with this idea that you can start doing your future husband good all the days of your life now. All can mean now, and you can get started on doing your husband good today while you're 12 or 14 or whatever. The way our daughters live their life now can be like a gift to their future husband. And when I think this can be an encouragement to girls because when they're all caught up in the love stuff and they have all this like energy that they want to be in love, they want to do something with these feelings and this excitement that they have for when it is their turn, I feel like this verse can be encouraging of you can do something with it now. You can do your future husband good now by the way that you live your life, by the way you guard your heart, by the way you prepare for the future, by the way that you work on your relationship with God, by the way you learn to be just a really good friend, both to boys and girls, by the way you learn to serve. Doing her future husband good all the days of her life can start now, and she can start investing in her future marriage now. As a young girl, when I heard that, that was really impactful to me because I didn't know who I was going to marry, but I couldn't wait to be married, and that like helped motivate me to think through how I did my life then. So that was really helpful. Okay, so we're going to move on from dating. I promise my other points will all be shorter, but there are some other things that I think can really help set our girls on the right path and that we can be thinking about helping them. One is church. These are pictures from our church. Not everybody goes to church here, but most of us do. So I think it's really important to teach our kids to serve in church. We need to teach them to be contributors, not consumers. Kids can get plugged into church. Kids who are serving in a church are much more likely to continue being involved in a church after they graduate. If they just merely attend, it's kind of anybody's guess. But one of the best things we can do to like help them really stay in a local church is to let them serve while they're growing up. And there's a lot of things young girls can do. They can work in nursery, they can make food for a potluck, they can help clean up, they can befriend a little kid or an older person, they can help greet, they can participate in their Sunday school class, they can invite their friends, they can help with Bibles or like VBS, they can help financially, even if they don't have very much. They can write encouraging notes. There's so many things that they can do, even if it's small while they're small. That's fine. As they grow and develop, there will be more and more opportunities. I was just in Reynolds' workshop, and they talked about like really watching to see how your kids are bent and how God has gifted them, and looking for opportunities specifically for them to serve in that area. And I think that's really wise. I think it's good to have them serving as much as they possibly can. And back to that clip of the road to 1,000 yeses, I think this is a really great place to apply it. If our girls want to serve in a certain area, it needs to just be yes, all the way. Like if you need lime jello to make a dessert that you're wanting to make for the potluck, yes, I will go to the store and get it. Like this is a good place to have 1,000 yeses and to encourage them in the ways that they want to serve. And to sometimes these things can take, like if they want to go to an activity to help or whatever, it might take something from us to give them the ride or to arrange our schedule. This needs to be an area of 1,000 yeses, in my opinion. Another thing I want to talk about is camp. Matt and I have been working with teenagers since Brittany was about 5 months old. And we didn't realize this when we were brand new parents starting to work with teenagers. We didn't realize how helpful it would be as young parents to be working with teens and their families. But it really gave us like a lot of insight of like, here's some things maybe we want to try. Maybe this is some things we want to avoid. Like I said before, parenting is certainly not a formula, but you do start to see trends of things that maybe work really well and maybe some things that don't work very well. And one of the things we noticed early on is it can be really impactful on kids when they go to camp, especially if they go like yearly to where they can build on it. I know that camp decisions sometimes get a bad rap because sometimes kids come home on like this spiritual high and then they get back into real life and all falls away. That happens. But something else that happens a lot, that we have seen a lot, we've experienced in our own lives and in our kids, is God can do really amazing things through camp ministry. You get away from everything else. Nowadays, you get away from technology and phones and screens, and you're with people who are just there to help you love Jesus more. And like all the noise of the world is kind of left behind at home, and you're just there with other people who are there for the same reason. God can do incredible things there. So for us, this is one of the 1,000 yeses. Camp is expensive. The camp we go to is expensive. I think all of them are. I feel like the one we go to is very, very expensive. But Lord willing, we're going to find a way to send our kids to camp, even if we have to sacrifice somewhere else. This is one of our areas that we've decided this is 1,000 yeses, because I think when it comes to their spiritual life, it's very impactful. And we have seen that in our kids. But beyond sending our kids to camp, one of the things that the earliest conversation I remember having with Matt about parenting from what we see from teenagers in our youth group is we saw such a difference. Beyond attending, we saw such a difference in the kids who worked at camp. They were just different. To where we saw over the years it like shaping the character of the kids who did this in such a way that Matt and I decided we want for our kids what we see in those kids. So, again, ours were tiny. They were nowhere close to being old enough to do it. But we determined we're going to start building this up and doing everything we can to encourage our kids to do that someday. And that's what we've tried to do. Our girls have been working at camp the last several years, and I will say absolutely. It's been, if you would ask them, both of them would say it's one of the most impactful things in their spiritual life. Without question. They learn to work hard, they learn to serve. I mean, these kids work long hours with very little pay, but they're there to serve Jesus. They're there under people like Pastor Dave and Willie. You're going to hear from Willie later, who just have a heart for discipleship, and they're pouring into our kids, and they're different voices than mom and dad, right? Like we can say the same things, and sometimes they hear it better from somewhere else. or from someone else. And we've just seen this to be in our own kids, the teens we've worked with. This is on our road to 1,000 yeses. Blake turns 14 this summer. You should just ask him about it. Be like, so now that you're 14, you get to work at camp. And just like, unless he's feeling really shy about it, he will go on and on. It's like a rite of passage for our kids. Like when you're 14, you can work at camp. That's a bigger deal than getting a permit. He'll talk to you about it all day. He's so excited. It's all he can think about. But this comes with sacrifice, right? Like the camp we go to is 3 hours away. And I think we probably make 10 to 15 trips some summers to take them up there to go get them, and then 3 days later taking them back. And it's a sacrifice. There's things that they miss when they're gone. We miss them. They're not there to help around home. But for the impact it makes on them, this is on the road to 1,000 yeses for us. Let's see. Okay, one thing that I want to just mention too is the importance of input in our young girls. And again, this is all kind of geared towards moms of kids who aren't quite to teen years. I mean, it all applies, but if you can stay ahead of it, input's so important. Like I said before, Proverbs 4:23 says, above all else, guard your heart. And while your kids are little, you just have a higher level of control of the input that they have when it comes to screens and books and movies and friends, what they have access to on the internet. Take that really seriously when they're little, and really try to prioritize when they're little, helping them to develop a taste for things that are wholesome. It will go so far if they really get a taste for things that are wholesome. Philippians 4:8 provides a good grid to think through like entertainment options. It says whatever's true, honorable, just, pure, lovely, commendable, and excellent, think on these things. So that's a grid we try to put all entertainment through. If it doesn't match up, it doesn't pass the test. And along with this, if you have a reader, like a lot of young girls like to read, if you have a reader, capitalize on that. Keep that girl stocked with good books that will feed her soul. I feel like it's easier doing books than movies. There's good movies too, but books are where it's at, man, when they're that age. A Google search will show you like recommended books for young Christian girls. You'll have a great list. There's a lot out there. I don't care if you buy the books, if you do an interlibrary loan, but this is a perfect example too of a road to 1,000 yeses. If you're going to read good books that feed your soul, I will keep you supplied and just keep those books coming. I think though too, on the road to 1,000 yeses, like we're yes, yes, yes in this direction. And it's okay to say, but these things off to the side, these are not for you. And that's okay. It's okay to be the parent who says, we're not going to watch that movie, and help them understand why. Or to be the last one to get your kids' cell phones. That's okay. There are things to the side, off the road to 1,000 yeses that are not for us. And I would also just say, as they get older, sometimes we kind of loosen those reins, and that's good and appropriate, like, to let them start being discerning and whatnot. But I would just caution you, do it very slowly and very deliberately, because once you loosen those reins on what they're allowed to watch or read or whatever, it is so hard to tighten those reins back up. They think you owe it to them now. So just be really slow and deliberate about that. Older girls. I think it's really valuable to identify an older girl or older girls that you see heading in the direction that you want your daughter to go, and make an effort to connect that girl or those girls with your daughter. It could be something as formal as a Bible study. It could be informal, like we just get ice cream once a month. But I think it's impossible to quantify the impact an older girl just living her life for Jesus in front of our younger girls has on them. Our girls had some girls like that in their lives when they were younger, and they'd come over to babysit, they'd come over to hang out. They just took an interest in our girls and just kind of like raised them up a little bit, and the impact is profound that it's had on our girls. So I think that's just a really simple, practical way that we can just help disciple our girls. All right, and to wrap it up, I just want to point out the obvious. Some of these things are countercultural. The question, Matt and I have had this conversation a lot. The question we need to ask ourselves as parents is, how willing are we willing to be? Like, how willing from other parents are we willing to be, and how different from other families are we willing to be, and how different are we willing for our kids to be? Because I feel like once we settle that and get comfortable there as parents, that's like half the battle for our kids, because they're going to pick up what we're doing, right? And if they can draw off of our confidence, but when we talk about peer pressure a lot with kids, and let's be honest, we can succumb to it too as parents. Like, we feel that tug to be cool, and we feel that tug to fit in sometimes too. And are we comfortable doing things differently? Here's a few verses. We're called foreigners, exiles, and aliens. I heard a quote on a podcast the other day that said, if you're not ready to be an alien parent, you're not ready to be a Christian parent. And that was pretty convicting. All right, so to wrap it up, we've been talking about the road to 1,000 yeses. But as you know, anytime you say yes to one thing, you're saying no to something else, right? So what your family chooses to say yes to might look different than what other families choose to say yes to, and that's okay. Our girls have turned down prom. Our boys have turned down, or they've missed baseball to go to camp. And in both those cases, that was their decision. But I feel like it's important, like when we as parents cast that vision, don't sell your kids short. Like, they have the ability to catch that vision and to be a team player in that, and to willingly put themselves on that path. The goal isn't to raise really good rule followers, right? We want them to want it. We want them to be on this path because they want to be. And so we're working toward that buy-in, that faith, that conviction that's their own. And again, we can't make that happen for them. Only God can. But we can till the soil, we can plant, we can water, and we can start early. And then we just have to trust God for the fruit. So that's my challenge. Is there anything that I said that didn't make sense, or that you have a follow-up question about? All right.
What's your biggest tip for girls feeling that longing to be loved and felt?
I think a really important thing is her relationship with her dad. So I think if the dad understands that this is a very deep longing in a girl's heart, is to be loved by a man, and for now, he can fill that role. And when he feels that really, really well, it's not a guarantee, but it's very likely that she's not going to feel as much of a need to go out and find it somewhere else. It's not always, it's not a formula, but that's one thing that I would say is a really strong daddy-daughter relationship can fill that void for now. And then as things come up, because girls talk about this all the time, right? The love stuff comes up all the time in different ways. Just use that as opportunities to plant that seed of, this is wonderful. And I hope someday you have with somebody what Dad and I have. Like, this is great. It's worth the wait for the right thing, and it's not for you now.
How do you keep your girls open in conversation?
They talk about it all the time. Yeah, it's something like car rides and 1,000 conversations. Like, I don't know. There's so many ways that it ends up coming to it. Like, they'll talk about like a friend who's in a silly relationship or whatever, and then it kind of comes back to, well, what are we looking for? Or it's just all around them, and it just comes up in conversation so much. Like, in my situation or my experience, you don't have to force it. It just all the time. If you're willing to take a hold of it, you can be having so many conversations. It's what they're thinking about.
Kristy, would you say that you would turn it around and make them answer the question? Like, if they say, would you say, well, what do you think you should do about that? Mm-hmm. Or do you feel like you do more of the talking?
It goes both ways. Mm-hmm. My girls ask a lot of, Brittany asked a lot of questions. Like, she's one to be like she's trying to like glean wisdom. Bria is more of like, she'll listen in on what Brittany and I are talking about. They're all different. Mm-hmm. and you know your girls too, right? Like how they receive information that you're giving them. Some kids you almost have to like present it as like reverse psychology, and let them think it's their idea or whatever. But with my girls, we were just really open of like, this is from again, since we talked about since they were little, as they like started coming into like the age where their friends were dating and stuff, like they already had buy-in, like they caught the vision, and they saw that this is a good way to do it, and this is how we're going to choose to do it. It's not that they don't want to get married. They both very much want to get married. It just hasn't been the right time yet. And God hasn't brought the right guy. So
I want to piggyback on your question too. So God really convicted me during your talk about things I've not done well with my first daughter and things I want to do with my younger daughter. That it's like, I think the difference of what you're saying is you're not telling them the hard line of, we don't agree with this. You are bringing the conversation back to, here's the path we are on. So is this choice that you want to make, or is this thing that you want to chase, does that align with the journey you actually want to take?
Right.
Or is it just the immediate path you want to take?
Right.
And so it's forming those critical thinking skills of, it's taking away that desire, the power of that desire a little bit to just chase the thing, because then it's forcing them to step back and really take a hard look at, is that really the path I want to take? And so the other thing that you said was, this can be a gift for your future husband. And so what brought to my mind during that was, how many heartbreaks are you going to allow yourself to go through? Like, that's baggage you're going to carry into that relationship with your future husband, because that's the path I want. And so that really stood out to me in how you're doing it differently.
And I find just in general, and it's not just teenagers, all of us with our sin nature, right? Like if you say, this is the one, like he said in the video, if this is the one fruit you can't have, we're all like, oh, that's the only one I want. It's all I can think about, right? Yeah. So I think it's really important, rather than approaching it as, we don't do this, we don't do this, we don't do this, we don't do this. So that just makes them want to do it, right? But I find, like with my girls or with the teens that we work with, when we've talked about this, like casting this vision of, look where you could go, and this is the path that you could take to get there, that just works better. I mean, it works better for me too. And then you're not fighting them with every decision.
That was so good.
So, any other thoughts or questions?
I think I speak for all of us, but not just your presentation, but just where you've come from, where you've been. Good job. Like you put in the hard work, you're still putting it in, and it's a lot of work. So we see the fruit of your hard work, and it's,
thank
we're
you.
all impressed.
Yeah, very much so.
Just the grace of God, so thank you.
Reminds me of that saying, if you get where you're headed, are you going to be where you want to be?
Right. And I think it's really easy for teenage girls to just be like the instant gratification, like what Jen said, of like, well, this feels good, or this guy likes me, and they're not thinking of like, this is just like this tiny little thing. And I think if you would ask most of them, like, do you think you're going to marry that guy? They'd be like, oh, no. Yeah. But something Matt says to our teens a lot is, every date is a potential mate. Like, I know of people who have been like, no, I wouldn't date, or I wouldn't marry him. It's just a date. And they know they shouldn't be dating him because he's not a believer or whatever. And then they fall in love, and they, like if you're going to go on a date with somebody, you have to at least have the bare bones of, is this somebody I would consider possibly marrying? And if he's not a believer, there's some reason you're like, it's a hard no, then probably shouldn't go on the date. But, and I told Matt, the thing that made me nervous about doing this, I don't want this to come across as some legalistic thing. This is not necessarily like the only way to do it. Like if you're my friend and you're doing it different with your kids, that's okay. Like I'm not just sitting back here judging. This is just something that God's really put on my heart with working with teens, working with my own daughters, my own life experience. I just see this as a really good option that I'd like to see people consider.
Thank you for sharing.
Well, thank you for coming. And it's the coffee break now, so you can go get some donuts.